People don't respect you. And you already know who I'm talking about. You trained them to treat you this way. You say you want respect, but you still respond instantly to people who take hours to get back to you. You say yes when you're already overwhelmed. You stay quiet when something clearly crosses a line, and then you wonder why no one takes you seriously. This didn't happen randomly. This video breaks down the 3 specific reasons people stop respecting you, and more importantly, the 3 things you can start doing differently today. And stay with me for reason. Number 3, because that is the one that costs you the most without you ever noticing it's happening. Respect isn't given, it's observed, learned, repeated. People study your behavior and adjust how they treat you accordingly, not consciously, not with deliberate calculation, but through the specific, accumulated daily evidence of what you allow, what you accept, and what you do when a line is crossed. That evidence is the signal, and people read it without being asked to. Reason number 1, you react too quickly. You don't think this matters. It matters more than almost anything else. Something lands wrong. A comment in a conversation that carries a specific edge, delivered in the tone of someone testing where the line is. And before you've had time to decide how you want to respond, you've already responded. Defensive, emotional, trying to correct the impression that was just created. And now, they know something about you. You're easy to trigger. And the person who is easy to trigger is the person who can be moved, positioned, managed, not respected. The person who controls their reaction controls the interaction. And the person who controls the interaction is the person in the room that everyone is actually calibrating to. Marcus Aurelius wrote, "From inside an environment specifically designed to produce the reactive response. If you are distressed by anything external, the pain is not due to the thing itself, but to your estimate of it, and this you have the power to revoke at any moment." An imperial court populated by people whose entire strategic position depended on producing the emperor's reaction, the defensiveness, the anger, the moment of visible disturbance that would tell them exactly where the access point was. And what he wrote to himself, in the private record that was never designed to be seen by anyone, was not the strategy for managing them. It was the daily instruction for managing himself. Not everything deserves a reaction, and most things don't. Miyamoto Musashi, the Japanese swordsman whose philosophy came from a completely different tradition than the Stoics, arrived at the same observation through a different path. In the Book of 5 Rings, he documented what separated the practitioner who won from the one who was technically capable but consistently lost. The ability to remain composed in the precise moment when composure was hardest to maintain. Not fearless, not without the impulse to react, but trained, through deliberate daily practice, to let the impulse pass through without delivering it. He didn't rush into emotional reactions. He waited, observed, moved with intention. And that quality, the specific, earned, practiced composure of someone who has trained the delay, is why he wasn't just feared, he was respected. Because respect follows the person who cannot be moved by what arrives. Think about someone in your own life who carries this quality. The person who receives a sharp comment and doesn't move, who gets tested and doesn't take the test, who absorbs what was designed to produce a reaction and instead produces something the situation was not prepared for. Stillness. And the room recalibrates, because something just became clear. This person cannot be controlled by what you say to them, and people don't disrespect what they cannot control. Next time something lands wrong, wait. 5 seconds. No expression, no visible response, no movement that communicates the trigger was found. Then, from a position that was chosen rather than produced, respond. If people can control your emotions, they don't respect you, they manage you. Reason number 2, you try to be liked. This is where most people lose themselves, not because they're weak, because they're afraid. And the fear is specific. If I stop making this comfortable, if I stop performing the version of myself that this person seems to prefer, something will be lost. And so you adjust. You soften the honest thing before you say it. You agree with the position you don't hold. You receive something that sat wrong, and instead of addressing it, you smile. And in that smile, you tell everyone in the conversation, this is acceptable, not with words, with the specific, unambiguous, completely readable signal of someone who just chose approval over accuracy. The more you need approval, the less people respect you, because they can feel it, not consciously, not as a deliberate assessment, but in the specific way that people always feel the difference between someone who is speaking and someone who is performing. And anything that needs approval can be controlled. Epictetus wrote, "From inside the most complete version of having no approval available. Seek not the good in external things, seek it in yourself." He was not writing about self-sufficiency as an abstract ideal. He was writing about the specific structural reality of someone who had discovered, through the forced removal of every external source of validation, that the stability he was looking for in other people's reactions was never going to arrive from that direction. It was only ever available internally. And the moment the seeking stopped, the stability was already there. Winston Churchill was not universally liked. Throughout the 1930s, his decade in the political wilderness, he was dismissed, ridiculed, and positioned by his contemporaries as someone whose moment had passed and whose warnings were the product of paranoia rather than judgment. He did not adjust the position to make it more palatable to the people who were dismissing it. He did not soften the warning to preserve the relationships that the warning was costing him. And when 1940 arrived, when the moment required exactly the quality that the wilderness had been building, the people who had dismissed him were the ones who needed him. Because the person who stood firm when it was comfortable to fold is the person whose position means something when it matters. Your identity cannot depend on how other people are currently responding to it. If it does, you don't have a stable identity yet. You have a performance. And performances are calibrated to the audience, which means the audience controls them. Someone says something in a conversation that doesn't sit right. The old pattern, let it pass, keep things comfortable, protect the dynamic at the cost of saying nothing. The new one, you address it, calmly, directly, without the escalation that would make you the problem. And something shifts, not because you won the interaction, because you demonstrated something the interaction was not prepared for. You don't need it to go smoothly more than you need to be honest. You're not being nice. You're negotiating your self-respect. And self-respect is the only foundation that respect from others can actually be built on. 2 reasons in. You react too fast. You look unstable. You seek approval. You look uncertain. But reason 3 is the one that costs you the most, because it happens slowly, invisibly, without a single dramatic moment you can point to and say, that is where it started. Understanding these reasons is the beginning. The gap that appears in almost everyone who sees this clearly is the gap between recognizing the pattern and having built the daily structure that makes a different response available in the actual moment. When the comment lands, when the approval is being offered, when the boundary is being tested in the specific, low-stakes, completely ordinary way that boundaries are always tested first. Because in the moment, you don't rise to the level of what you understood. You fall to the level of what you practiced. 3 systems built specifically for that gap: unshakable mental discipline, the 30-day mental discipline system, and the daily Stoic reset pack. Not motivation, not more content. Daily structure that builds these lessons into how you operate, not just how you understand what operating correctly looks like. All 3 are in the description. Now, reason number 3. Reason number 3, you don't set boundaries. This is the one that costs you the most, not because it's dramatic, not because there is a single clear moment where it begins, because it happens in the accumulation, in the daily, unremarkable, completely ordinary choices to let something pass rather than address it, and each one is small enough to justify. Just this once. It's not worth the conversation. I don't want to make this difficult. And slowly, across the accumulation of those justifications, the specific position of your line becomes visible to everyone who has been testing it. You said you were busy, but when someone insisted, you gave in. You cancelled your plans. You moved your priorities. You reorganized what mattered to you around what mattered to them, just to keep things smooth. And now they know something specific. Your time is not solid. Your yes is the default, not a decision. Your no is a negotiating position, not a conclusion. No boundaries means no consequences. No consequences means no cost to the behavior that crosses the line. And no cost means no reason to stop. Epictetus wrote, "Make the best use of what is in your power, and take the rest as it happens." What is in your power is the response to what people do with the access you give them, not their behavior, your response to it. And the specific response that builds respect is not the dramatic, confrontational, emotionally escalated boundary declaration of someone who waited too long and is now reacting from accumulated resentment. It is the calm, early, completely undramatic communication of what is and isn't available, delivered before the resentment has had time to build. Nelson Mandela spent 27 years in conditions specifically designed to extract that boundary, to find the point at which the pressure would produce the concession that would redefine who he was and what he stood for. He was offered conditional release on multiple occasions, freedom in exchange for a public renunciation of the position his imprisonment was designed to punish. He refused, not with anger, not with the escalation that would have given his captors the emotional reaction they could use against him, with the specific, settled, completely undramatic clarity of someone who had decided what was available and what was not before the offer arrived. And that clarity, maintained across 2 decades of sustained, deliberate pressure, is why when he emerged, he was not just admired. He was respected in the specific, structural way that only the person whose position has been tested and held can be. Boundaries are not aggression, they are structure. They tell people exactly where you stand, without requiring the emotional escalation that communicates you weren't sure until they pushed. You're in a situation where something that should have been a no is being pressed toward a yes. The old pattern, give in, keep it smooth, tell yourself it's just this once. The new one, that doesn't work for me. No extended justification, no softening of a decision that was already made. And the resistance that arrives, the push for an explanation, the suggestion that you're being unreasonable, is not the problem. It's the test. And passing the test is the only thing that makes the boundary real. If people can cross your line, it means you never drew one. Let's put it together. You react too fast. You look unstable. You seek approval. You look uncertain. You avoid boundaries. You look available. And people treat you exactly that way. Not because they're cruel. Not because they sat down and decided to disrespect you. Because you trained them. Through the daily, accumulated, completely unremarkable evidence of what you allow, what you accept, and what you do when the line is crossed. Respect isn't given. It's taught. Through behavior. Not words, not intentions. Behavior. Next time you feel triggered, pause. Next time you want to say yes, wait. Next time something feels off, address it. Not aggressively, clearly. And when you do this consistently, something shifts. People stop testing you. They think before they speak. They respect your time, your space, your presence, without you asking for it. If this hit you, don't stop here. Come back for day 2. Stop reacting. Comment below, day 1 done, and subscribe, because this isn't motivation, this is training.